this is our first time doing a podcast together. I just want to first off saying I think you're doing a really great job with your contributions to Crown Refs. I've been enjoying watching your content, as a creator for Crown Refs. Done a really nice job off the court. So now I'm really interested in kind of sitting with you, breaking down some situations from your games on the court. I want to start to, help you improve as an official, kind of take your temperature on where your psychology is with regards to play calling and kind of game management. So I thought it'd be pretty cool to just sit down with you for half hour, 45 minutes and chop it up about your weekend of games. So I know you got back out onto the court first time since the quarantine.
Yeah, first time. Obviously been watching and being a part of all the content and watching NBA games, but it's nothing like actually getting out there and making calls and getting yelled at by coaches and players. Just nothing really like it.
Yeah, so tell me how your weekend went. How many games you do? You work Saturday and Sunday. Tell me about your games.
Yeah, so I just did Sunday, a little 6-game block. Like I said, it was varsity, some 9th grade, and then as well some JV. It was 2-man, so no 3-man rotations. It was just 2-man, reffing with new partners, so that's always fun just to connect with a new referee, do the same sort of thing. And just teams around the Twin Cities that I've reffed before, they're the lower levels, and I recognized a few of the players who kind of got moved up to the varsity space, so that was cool just to see the players' games evolve over the past year or so. But the games went smooth. Of course, we had like 3 overtime games, so it's always good to get those reps into with the high pressure calls and everything that regards overtime games. But it was a good weekend.
Good to hear. Good. It's always nice to do 6 games in a row. It's definitely where you could add up some reps, especially if you're doing like overtime games. It winds up being a long day. How was as far as like your rust level? I know you haven't been back on the court for a while. How did it feel? Did you feel comfortable?
Yeah, I felt comfortable, especially with like the making calls and the play calling section of the game. I'd say where I found the most rust was my communication, just in terms of if a coach asks me a question, and I'm either running down the court to get to my player. If they ask me a question about a rule, I was a little rusty in terms of not being as smooth with how I was speaking. I know, and I wrote this down, one of the events that happened, my partner made a call and went up to the scores table, did his stuff, and then about a minute later, one of the coaches randomly asked me what the call was. And this is probably bad on my part, but since it wasn't, an official high school or college game, it was more of kind of a tournament per se. I wasn't as locked in terms of knowing exactly what my partner's call was. And the coach asked me what the call was, and I thought I knew what it was, but I wasn't 100% on what it really was. So I kind of had to say, I think it was this. But I was kind of curious on how you would approach this situation if you weren't 100% on what your partner's call was. Do you stop the games and ask your partner, hey, what was your last call there? Or
no, I'm not going to stop the game. No, I'm not going to stop the game. But when a coach requests our interpretation of what our partner had called, I think there's 2 ways to go about it. There's 2 things that I do. If I see the play and I have a good gauge on what my partner called, then the coach is going to say, hey, what'd you have on that last play? And I'm going to say, coach, I had the exact same thing as my partner. That's one I want to lean to a little bit more than the other one, because this just shows good unity. And coach, I had the same exact thing. And that's it. I'm not going to lie to him. I want to be authentic. If I had a good feel, I have a good sense of what he was calling, I had the same exact thing. Now, if I didn't have a great sense of it, then here's option B. Coach, I would never want my partner to explain my calls, so I'm not going to explain his. He'll be over at the next dead ball. I'll let him know. Kind of take that as a approach. Coach, I don't want him speaking for me. So I'm not going to speak for him. So in order to get you your best answer, he'll come over at the next dead ball. So we got two options. It's
Mhm.
I'm 100%, I had exactly what he had, or I'm not 100%, so I don't want to speak for him or her, and they'll be right over. I think those are
Okay.
two simple ways of doing it every time. There's nothing else we really need to mention.
Yeah, that's really good. And just, I think something that could have made this not be an occurrence was towards the beginning, the first one or two games, I noticed my partner, he's got the lead and he's in the lead position and he'd make a call down low. And instead of rotating all the way up to the score table to make his call, he would just kind of step out and go give his
Yeah.
whatever the foul was. And I think that kind of threw things off right away. Instead of him actually going up to the score table and making a call like we would in an official game.
Mhm.
And what I did for that is I told him after the second game is, hey, let's try to make this as official of a game as we can, just to make sure we can get our good reps in. Even though that does slow down the game for us, I thought it was just a good idea to get those official reps in for myself.
That's good that you recommend it. Remember, like once we work rec games, and you never know the person's age or experience level, how many games they're working that day, how interested they are in officiating. So that's kind of where the gray area comes in when we're doing these rec games. Yeah, normally we're going to rotate and report
Mhm.
at the table every single time in a real game. Doesn't happen all the time in a rec game, which creates kind of new issues or potential problems that we have to navigate around. But that's really out of our control. Of what I like to do is, if I have those type of partners, I'll just say, let's just switch on all shooting fouls. So at least
Got
we're
it.
rotating a little bit, because I know if I don't mention that, then they'll stay in the same position the whole game.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, yeah. So
Okay, and,
whatever.
and just another thing that came up was, and I was questioning myself when I did this because I think you may have mentioned it on a prior podcast a ways back, but whenever there's kind of these close bang bang plays in terms of the ball going out of bounds in your area and it's kind of questionable and from the fans and the coaches point of view, um, I was going, so the teams were white and blue, and if it went off white, instead of just saying blue ball and pointing to the direction whose ball it is, I would say off white, blue ball. So I'm
Too
kind
much.
of curious on your terms on what you do in those situations.
Yeah, I mean that's confusing. Our job when the ball goes out of bounds is to stop the clock, point the direction, say the color. So that's really all that's required. What you did was you added an extra cell to it. You wanted to assure people like you got your 100%, but I just think it's confusing because the first thing you said is not the color of whose ball it is. You mentioned white. So some people may not hear off white. They just may hear white. And then next thing you know, somebody jumps up and down, and that's just unnecessary. And that's because we added improper verbiage, you know? So I just
Hmm.
think just keep those simple. If you're 100% sure that it's blue ball, boop, blue ball. You don't need to say it was off white. The defender deflected it with his left hand. This comes down to just you being certain that you got it right. If you're certain, then your body language and your demeanor are going to provide people what they need to, the reassurance of what they're looking to see. If you're kind of confused about it and you say off white, it could lead to a confusing communication of the play. Whereas if we're keeping
Definitely.
it by the book, simple, boop, blue ball. I don't have to say anything. If it's blue ball, then I know it was probably off white,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
So
And and I, and something else I know you mentioned before in another podcast was to eliminate the tipping motion or the
mhm.
tipping mechanic from the way you do things, because I mean this isn't really a approved mechanic. It's not telling anyone what the call is instead of just pointing
Yeah.
whose ball it is. Is that something you still practice moving forward for next season?
That's a good question. Like I said, eliminate the excess. Do we need this? No, we don't. If you feel like in that moment you needed to show that, then that's on you. I'm just telling you what I do. I don't feel the need to, because basically what you're doing is you're communicating to the crowd, the coaches and the players, and you're kind of giving reasons of why you had this call. Whereas I just think if we're just by the book, by handling our business, keeping it simple and basic, I understand it's a natural reaction to want to be like, oh, it was off the knee, it was off the knee, I got it going this way. But if you see it and you're certain it's off Blue's knee, I don't need to let anybody know it's off the knee. When it goes off somebody's head, do you say, oh, you do that? When it goes off somebody's shoulder, do you do that? So like, why are we choosing body parts where we feel the need to show it? Goes off someone's knee, goes off someone's foot. I'm just keeping it blue ball. And if a coach asks, then I could maybe point to the knee.
How about if it's a kicked ball or off someone's shin? Do you ever use, the kicking mechanic in those situations?
Only if it's a kick ball.
Okay,
If a ball touches your leg, not necessarily a kick. It has to be an intentional act. So if it's a kick ball, I'm
got
gonna
it.
go, boop, I'm gonna point to my foot, do the kick ball motion, and point that way. But if it's just off somebody's shin, then that gets back to the last point. I'm not going to indicate where it went out. I'm just going to indicate the new color. And
Makes sense.
it's just a simpler way of thinking, and it's less task on our part. It's just a little bit less required signals and movements and motions that we don't really need. It's what I found.
Hmm.
It's what I found. Some people like to sell and do a million things, and it's worked for them for 25 years. I'm just giving you what has worked for me.
Cool. One other kind of play calling event that came up was um, team was bringing up the ball pretty slowly, no pressure in the backcourt, and the one team that was on offense had a pretty good sized fella compared to the defensive team, and he was camped in the lane, as the point guard slowly brought up the ball, and the coach who was on defense was yelling at me, and I'm in the backcourt just counting, for 10 seconds. He's yelling at me that their big guy was having 3 seconds in the lane while the offensive player brought up the ball. And it's my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's my understanding that 3 seconds in the lane for an offensive player only starts once the ball is past half court line. And that may be a high school rule, it may not be something that doesn't occur in college. So I'm just curious on what the actual ruling is on that.
Well, you know how I feel about rules. Don't ask me, ask the book. But that being said, that's a universal rule that the ball needs to be in the front court before that 3-second count can start in the lane. And so this is nothing, right? But anytime a coach is yelling out an incorrect rule, where it's like becoming a distraction and it's obviously an incorrect rule, be the informer. So at the next, you're not going to go yell at them. You're going to communicate effectively. Coach, just to let you know, the 3-second count doesn't start until the ball is in the front court, until the ball has front court status. Oh, okay. That's it. But we're not going to let him yell that 2 or 3 times because he's yelling incorrect information. We need to go inform him of the rule.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did end up telling him at the next dead ball, just so he was aware of it. Just because, it is kind of a weird, something that doesn't really come up too often. But I'm glad I got it right at least.
Yeah. Yep. What other interactions did you have? You said you were feeling uncomfortable a couple times with the coaches. Anything else that stand out?
Yeah, one other thing that happened was coaches, he said that he saw something, and it was kind of a fast break one-on-one play where the defender was kind of on the side of the offensive player, and he thought that the offensive player kind of threw an elbow with his offhand to create space for a layup. but all I saw was that the defender created a illegal guarding position on him and used his chest when going up to defend him. So I thought it was a blocking foul. And it was one of those plays where it was a fast break. So I was kind of trailing the play a little bit on the side, not
Mhm.
necessarily being stacked, but I didn't have as good of an angle as I would have if I was in the lead position. So I wasn't in my typical, lead position to have the best angle. But what I saw was the defender having a legal guarding position and creating illegal contact. And coach said that he saw the offensive player throw out an elbow. And unfortunately, with my angle, I wasn't able to see any elbow. So what I told him at the next dead ball was that my angle saw a blocking foul, and I saw your defender get into his space when he's going up for the layup. So I know you've mentioned when you do give explanations to coaches on specific calls is to be the informant, and also give out rules-based interpretations of what you saw.
Mhm.
So curious on the way that I handled that would be something that you would do, or if you would take that situation any differently and if you were there.
So was this like a block charge play, or did you just wind up calling a block? Like, was it a crash, or was it the defense?
Yes.
It was a crash?
Uh-huh.
Okay, because the reason why I asked that is because you said you had the defender pushing with his chest forward, and that immediately tells me normally those are, if I'm moving forward into you with my chest, I look at that. I'm sorry, that's a push to me. I know we might be
Push.
splitting
Okay.
hairs on whether it's a push or a block. Um, but remember, blocks happen on the floor. A lot of times it's with, hip contact or moving to the left on an airborne shooter. So just keep that in mind. If you have a defender pushing forward or moving forward with his chest, that could be a push as well. As far as what the offensive player did, um, a lot of times you'll see the coach, an offensive coach, where A1 kind of extends, but there's no illegal
Hmm.
contact. So it's like, okay, I saw his off arm. He kind of pushed it out a little bit. There was no illegal contact, no displacement, nothing happened. So, one way to counter that, where the coach, says it was an offensive foul. Coach, I saw the motion. I saw what the offensive player did with the off arm, but I didn't think it created any illegal contact. I saw exactly what he did, but I didn't think there was any displacement there. So that could be a good way to counter when a coach is looking for a push off or a ward off.
Hmm.
You're
Okay.
agreeing with him in the motion of the offense. So you're recognizing and identifying, okay, I saw what you saw, but after that, there still has to be illegal contact. Just because I go like this with my off arm, I still have to foul you,
Yeah,
you know?
definitely.
But always,
Hmm.
like, coach, from my angle, and you might want to add too, if you're not 1,000 on this call and you think, coach could have some validity, you might want to say, coach, I was not in a great position. I was kind of trailing it on a fast break. I got beat. So from my angle, when I made the call, I had the defender make an illegal contact, and then just let him talk.
That
But
makes
mention
sense.
that
Yeah, I
you
like
might
that.
have been out of position, because it's not going to happen. You're not going to have another conversation probably about you being out of position again. So that could be good leverage in order to kind of create empathy from the coach. Coach, I got beat on that play. It was a quick steal. It was a fast break. I was trailing the play. I wasn't in the greatest position. So, from my angle, when I made the call, I had a block. What'd you see?
Mm,
Does that make sense?
yeah, that's very helpful. I think the last thing that kind of stumped me, like I said, the most rust for me was was the communication side of things, just because I haven't been out there jamming it up with coaches and players and other officials. But there was, so my partner was the trail, like I said, it's two-man going on, and my partner was the one kind of officiating the backcourt with the ball handler dribbling and then the defender guarding him pretty closely. And from my angle, it appeared that the defender was doing a lot of hand checking and was reaching and making contact with the offensive player. And if I was in my partner's position, I probably would have been calling, a blocking foul, or a pushing foul, whatever the case was. And the coach was talking to me when I was for the next dead ball, and was asking me to watch for the hand check on the defender. And the only thing that I said, because obviously I don't want to throw my crew member under the bus and saying, sorry, coach, that wasn't my call. I would
Never say
have called it differently.
Just never say that.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so the only thing that I really came up with of saying is, sorry, coach, I didn't see that. I'll watch for it next time. And
Don't
I know that's
apologize.
a pretty.
I don't feel you need
You
to
apologize?
No, because what did we do wrong there? Do we know if we did anything wrong? I don't necessarily love apologizing in refereeing. Like if you missed something, yeah, my bad, but I don't know. I'm sorry. I wouldn't say I'm sorry, coach.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
Keep going.
Yeah. So like I said, the only thing that I could come up was saying to the coach, sorry, which is now ingrained into my brain as a no-no. But I said, sorry, coach, I didn't see it. I'll watch for it next time. And after I said it, I just thought to myself, that's such a generic, just blanket statement that, it's not going to give the coach any reassurance that you're looking to make a difference and really make an effort to make sure that this play doesn't continue going forward. So I'm curious how you would go about those situations where it wasn't necessarily your call, but a coach asks you a question about play that's going on that's not in your area.
In this particular case, you were in the lead position. I would kind of communicate to him, coach, I'm in the lead position right now. I'm on the end line. So I don't have a good look at what's going on in the backcourt. Just a statement like that is going to kind of get him off you and realize, yeah, oh, okay, you're right. Maybe I need to ask the other official. But that being said, that's something I might lead with. But a lot of times it's going to end with, coach, I hear you. Me and my partner are going to talk about it at the next dead ball. Something simple. You don't have to apologize. You don't have to say, oh, my bad. We missed it. It's you had a duty. You were referencing 6 players who were on the end line, and we're a team. So we don't want to leave the coach without anything. We want to give him something, but there's just not that much we can give him. You were not in the trail position. You weren't reffing that play. You and your partner are responsible for 50% of the court. There's only so much you can do. This is an imperfect science. Sometimes we just have to let our partners live and die. If they miss something right in their lap and we see it from 75 feet away, we just got to chill and let them take that, So, coach, I hear you. We're going to give it a look. You might be right. That's a better way than saying I'm sorry.
Definitely. Yeah, sorry is out of my head now moving forward.
Well, sorry, you're just admitting loss. And I'm not saying we want to manipulate the situation at all, but you don't have any reason to be sorry, I don't think.
Yeah. Like I said, the rust from not communicating with coaches was shown in a few of these events, but this has been helpful.
Well, I'm glad, because it's provided good conversation for both of us, That's what it's all
Definitely.
about. That's what it's all about, going and doing these games and then recapping. If you don't have that recap, if you don't have that time to really digest what transpired over the weekend and game to game and tough plays here and there, you got to break them down in order to really grow. So like this session, after we have this session, you're going to have kind of new tools to go into next weekend with, and you're going to play around with those tools and see how that helps you, and then come back again. And so it's just rinse and repeat.
One other just random question I have is, I'm making it a more of an effort moving forward, at least this season, to get film of my games. And I know it's kind of tricky, especially now with, limited number of fans being allowed into the crowd, and especially with kind of these rec, um, like high school tournaments that are preseason.
Mhm.
How have you ever tried to get film of yourselves in, these Saturday, Sunday tournament games at all?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if there's any brands there running the tournament, like Crossover, Hoop Group, kind of some of the Baller TV, these are brands that record everywhere they go. I don't know what it's like in Minneapolis, but I would go up to who's running the event, ask them if anybody's filming today. Um,
Okay.
Another thing you could do is, this is just like a hack. This is just a way to hustle. If you see a parent filming the game, I would go start a conversation with them and say, "Hey, could you do me a favor? Any chance you could email me the film?" They might say yes. I've gotten film from a parent before. It's because
Okay.
because nobody filmed that game, but I noticed as I was reffing, there was somebody up in the stands filming the whole time. After the game, after I had the post game my crew, that person was still there in the stands. I walked up to him, gave him the email, said I would really appreciate if you could send me the film. I just ref the game, and they sent it. So it's just about being resourceful. If nobody's there filming, there's nothing you can do. But if somebody's there, then you need to inquire who has it. I remember I told you the story. I couldn't find anybody to film my game, so I went and bought a camera. I'm sorry, I couldn't find anybody that was filming the games, so I went and brought a camera and brought my own person to come film. So maybe there's a family member that wants to help you out on a Saturday, pay them 20-30 bucks or whatever, but there's ways to figure this out. You just have to be resourceful and creative.
Hmm. Yeah, maybe if I'm smooth with my words, I can tell my girlfriend to come and film all my games. I'm sure she'd be thrilled about that. But
I
that's
mean,
a good point too.
you could technically buy a camera stand, right? Buy a camera stand, go put it in the corner or somewhere in the stands, put your iPhone on it, right? Go to YouTube,
Hmm.
start your own YouTube channel, go to YouTube, and this way you don't have to worry about memory. You go to YouTube, you record the game right in YouTube. So you just hit the button, record, you go ref the game. Hopefully it catches a lot of it. Once you're done, you hit upload and put it on like a private YouTube channel or public, unlisted, whatever you want to do.
Hmm.
This way it's stored now on YouTube. So if you have a smart TV, now you can go watch that game on your smart TV, right?
Yeah.
And you don't have to worry about like an hour and a half of a file in your camera roll, right? So you're not
Yeah.
recording directly into your camera roll. So that's just one option. I mean, you have the capabilities to go record yourself right now. It may not pick up all of your calls. You got to get creative, and hopefully you find a good spot where you can watch the game. Obviously, you're not going to be turning and zooming in, but you can find something.
Right.
There'll be something there.
Okay.
Creativity.
Yeah.
There's always a way, man.
Cool.
There's always a way. People make excuses when obstacles pop up. They see obstacles and see excuses. I see obstacles and see opportunity.
100%.
How is it as far as your command of like rules and signals? Do you feel fluid presenting?
Yeah. Like I said, my main rust was in communication, but in the past, I'd say 2 years ago, I was kind of blowing my muscle and just pointing. I was that pointing rough, unfortunately. And I caught myself doing it on my first call. But I really made an effort to slow down, blow my whistle, fist up for a foul, and then doing, the mechanic, instead of just blowing my whistle, yelling what happened and pointing. Because I did that the first call I made. And I was like, nope, I'm not falling into this habit again. So I just really made it a habit to slow down, process what happened. Because I mean, I've been told by one of the assigners who assigned youth that I just needed to slow down a few years ago. And when he said that, um, it really helped me just do the call, close fist or open fist, whatever happened, process what happened, say it out loud. And that's really helped me to not just be that pointing official that's just pointing all over the place.
Yeah, it's a natural tendency to early on not stop the clock, just come out point or come out and punch. But once you realize that when you do this or this, you're buying another 2 seconds of processing time. You're stopping the clock, but you're still watching the play and you're still making your decision. You don't have to have your answer when you do this. You know there's a foul, you know there's illegal contact, so you can do this. But that buys you that 1, 2, 3 extra seconds sometimes to gather as much data as possible to make the best decision.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
want to see you. I want to see you present. I think this will be a good opportunity. Just kind of let's run through some of your signals. We'll go through hit, hold, push, numbers, and just kind of we'll play off. We'll play off it from here.
Okay.
So let me see you report a hit on 22 white.
Hit on 22 white. Got a hit 22 white. Hit 22 white. And point
Right.
which direction.
First thing we do is we say color and number. So it's white 22. Hit. And one thing I don't want you to do is I don't want you to hit the arm this way. This was the first hit signal I ever had, and I hate it. I hate it. I didn't know how to do a hit back then, so I did this for like 2 years. I want you to just pop the off arm out, shoulder width or shoulder height, and just strike it here. But don't strike it like you're about to miss the target. I want you to, it should hit right around here, right on the forearm or the elbow. See the arm.
Okay. White 22, hit.
All right, so we got to work on that. We got to work on that, you know, getting a little bit more snap there. Remember, you could do both arms, hit on the left, hit on the right. You can also drop the arm and go a little bit lower depending on the contact. But I think you got to improve the hand that strikes the off arm. I just think it could look smoother. All right, and it's just practice. It's just practice. Okay. And it almost looks like you're overthrowing the target. Like you're hitting it. You got to hit it closer to your hand versus down by your forearm. Closer to your hand. Like almost, I think the bottom of your hand should hit your arm.
Yeah.
A little bit better, you know?
Okay. So you're going color, number, bang.
Color, number, foul type, how many shots?
Okay.
White, 22, hit, 2 shots. That order every time. Don't go up to the table and say hit on white 22. It's always got to be the same order every time. Color, number, foul, shots.
Okay.
Let's see your hold on 33.
White 33. Beep beep.
Don't worry about don't worry about on the spot stopping the clock. Just show me what you would look like at the table.
Okay. 33 white, hold. White 33, hold.
Remember, when you report, it should be in a box. The box is like from your shoulders over your head, right? So I want you to like push your numbers inside that box. It's a little soft the way you're pushing it out. I think it could have a little bit more pop to it. 33, okay. Push it out, extend your arms out. It should fly out of your hands. Pop, like pop, snap.
White 33, white 33, hold. White 33, hold.
Let me ask you this. How often do you practice your signals?
Honestly, not as much as I should.
All right. This is just a practice. It's just a game of practice.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just reps in front of the mirror. 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day before a game. But it's just practice. It's repetition.
Mm-hmm.
The hold, make sure it goes a little bit higher and then snap it out at the top.
Okay. Yeah, I'm doing more like a football holding.
Yeah, don't pull it down. Don't pull it down. That's football.
You know.
Keep it here for a second and then pop it. It's like you're striking it outward.
Okay. White 33, hold.
The hold looks better already. The numbers I want to continue to improve. Let's see your push.
White 22 with the push. White 22, push.
I think your numbers got to be a little bit wider. I think your numbers should be shoulder width. You're a little close. And your push was a little close too. Push should be shoulder width too. Bring your hands right to your shoulders and extend outward till you straighten your arms. And also add a step to it. So as your hands are here, you're stepping forward, providing a little bit of momentum into your push.
Okay.
Let's try that.
So white 22, push with the step.
Push is better. You actually were a little too wide there with your numbers. Just put it in that box every time.
Okay.
And extend. That looks better already. The numbers and the push looks better already. What else we got? What other fouls are there?
My and one, count the basket, and my charging calls are pretty brutal. But we can do those. I'll embarrass myself.
All right,
so
better here.
We'll do a charge on black 41. So I got black 41 going this way.
All right, remember, don't punch and put the hand behind the head, because that's two different fouls. That's team control and player control. Although they've eliminated the punch. I don't know about in high school. I think they still have it for team control. But in college, we no longer do the punch. Everything is behind the head with a point.
Okay, so you're just going here?
Yeah. So instead of the punch with the behind the head, it's the point with the behind the head.
So it's no longer that, it's just pointing.
Yeah, it's a point with the behind the head. And a punch would be separate from the behind the head. It wouldn't have it. Like if you were calling a legal screen or an off-ball team control foul, then as per last year, I know we reported just like the punch. But I know you want to move up and do college. In college, they've eliminated the punch because they said it looks too similar to the N1 score it signal.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not punching at all anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
Behind the head and just point.
Yeah.
Black 41. This way.
Yeah. You point with four fingers? You point with the whole hand?
I do four fingers.
Okay. I know that's correct. As per high school. I don't think it looks like the strongest point in the world. I would pick one or two fingers to do it. That's just me. But you got to find out what works for you. I think
maybe I'll mess around with doing other things.
The whole hand just looks so dated, and I don't find too many people using it, even like at the Division I level but again, I know this is a high school approved signal, so I want you to stay as close to the book as possible. But there's also a little gray area that the book doesn't tell us about. So let me see your block.
Yeah. So we're going to go 33 white with the block. So we got white 33, block. White 33, block.
Just start with your fists up a little higher. I think your fist should go a little bit higher. Better. Yeah, it just looks stronger when you present with more height. I think we look stronger. So stopping the clock. So once you stop the clock, that off arm almost matches, and it almost looks like you have two fists now up. I think it's a good little transition into the block where your off arm comes to the same height as the arm that just called the foul, and that brings you right to your hips with a little bit of a bounce back. Meaning once it hits the hips, it doesn't just stop at the hips. There's a little bit of upward momentum. I think it adds a little fluidity.
Yeah, so I can kind of think of it as stopping the clock with a foul, and this is when I'm processing in my head, is it going to be going the other way, or is it going to be here, block?
Yes. And the block charge call is where you really need to stop the clock, because that's where you need the most time. Crash, boom. Okay, block, got it. Took me that extra second. I was thinking of it after I had stopped the clock. You know, I'd stop the clock. I wasn't 100%. I knew I had to kill the play right there, but I bought an extra 1.5 seconds in order to get me to where I felt comfortable with the block.
Yeah. Okay.
People rush
Yeah,
their timing. I think a lot of officials don't understand we actually have more time than what is perceived. They think we need to be rush the call out. We have a little bit more time than you think of, I think, a lot of the times.
mm-hmm. In an occurrence where player hits a player on the head, rather than just going with the hit, are you going here?
Absolutely. Anytime a player gets hit on the head, don't do the arm hit. Just do the hit to the head.
Okay.
Let everyone know. White, 22, hits him in the head. 2 shots. And you can even indicate a hit to the head on the spot. I know I'm not big on presenting signals on the spot unless it's a block charge or something that needs to, illegal screen. But besides that, most of the times it's just a fist. Yeah, so for hits to the head, we always want to show the head. And I know sometimes you see officials go hit to the head and then go hit in order to be proper. I don't think we need to add 2 signals there. Hit to the head.
Okay.
Everyone knows defender hit the offensive player in the head. There's nothing you could say.
What is your, I don't have this call too often, but I want to make sure I get it down. What is the proper mechanic for illegal screening in terms of an offensive player moving to set a screen? Is it just going the other way?
It depends. It depends. Normally I would just stop the clock and then punch, or stop the clock and then point. And then when I report, I'll report the act of what they did. A lot of times illegal screens are blocks, right? Screener moves to the right, clips them. Technically, that's like a block. If the guy running through the screen had the ball, that would appear more like a block. So I'll go white 22, illegal screen, and then that's it. Or I'll just go white 22 and illegal screen with the punch, because this shows team control foul. So it just depends.
Okay.
Sometimes I might even report a push because the screener pushed forward, was moving forward into the defender. So then I'll go white 22, illegal screen.
Okay. I might work with that punch one. Normally what I've been doing is stop the clock, and then I'll go beep beep 22 white, and then I'll kind of show the sliding motion of the player not being established. So
yeah, I do the slide block sometimes. I don't love it. I don't just because I don't feel that comfortable doing it all the time, but sometimes it's good to show that left to right movement. But just to get back to what I'm going to call this year, if we have games when we have an illegal screen, it's boop behind the head. So they've merged, NCAA has merged the team control and player control foul. Now it's just the same, it's behind the head.
Okay.
So if I have it this year, boop, offense or illegal. And then report 22, illegal screen. So illegal screen now has behind the head. But I don't want to confuse the officials in high school, but just kind of giving you a little forecast what you can expect as you move up. So don't fall too in love with the punch.
Cool.
So good stuff. Got anything else on your mind?
No, that was really helpful, especially with the mechanics. Like I said, I don't have a whole lot of film on myself, so I don't really know how I'm doing. A lot of the times, your crew members aren't going to call you out on your mechanics and make sure you're popping it out instead of just being really narrow. Make sure you're doing the proper stuff. So this has really been useful and helpful.
Good. So take my suggestion about getting a stand, or at least maybe planting or mounting your phone somewhere in the gym. At least you can get a little film. Maybe if it's for a half or whatever, but try that YouTube, uploading it to YouTube. I think it'll work out for you. At least you have something in the meantime, But all All right, sounds good. Appreciate the conversation. Definitely helps me too, because I haven't had a ton of games. I mean, I'm working this weekend coming up, but I haven't had a ton of games. So any kind of interaction with officiating, you know, is positive. So appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much.
And I look forward to more of your articles on Crown Refs.
Yeah, looking forward to it too. Got some good ones lined up. And I know you have some good podcasts lined up as well. So really looking forward to it.
Awesome. Thanks, John. Talk to you soon.
Yeah, talk to you later.
Later.
Thank you for listening to the Crown Refs podcast. Serve the game.